Can you hear
Hey,
me?
good, good. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Jason. How are you, buddy?
Good. How are you?
Oh, it's been a busy day, but that's good, right? It's all good.
Yeah, yeah. How's everything looking on video on my end? Okay for you? Background good?
Yeah, really cool stuff in the background there. Looking good, man.
Awesome.
Yeah, any questions before we kick it off?
No, I love your get up behind you. Super awesome.
I threw a couple things in the background, you know. I didn't want to get too crazy. I have a bunch of masks, but I'm like, no. I'll just keep it a little subtle background stuff.
Super awesome. I love it, man.
There's a weird little spider on the painting
Nice.
back there, if you can see
Yeah, I got
that.
tons of little things. I got this is a cool one here.
Oh, awesome. Oh, that's alien, right? It's one of the alien
Yep,
creatures. Yeah.
yep.
Neato, man. Neato. That I think I saw is that one of the ones? What machine did you print that in?
This is actually one part of a much bigger piece. This is all carbon D.L.S.
Nice.
Super early on with carbon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I saw a video or something of that. Was it in the video? Maybe it was just shown at a show. I just remember seeing it in some
yeah.
video somewhere.
It's gotten a lot of play everywhere. I think technically speaking, it is the first commercialized product that was actually done on a carbon machine that went out for sale. Because
Okay.
that's how we did all of those maquettes, collectibles.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, well, all right. We can kick it off then. I get it. Just have fun with it, buddy.
All right, let's do it.
Hey, everybody. My name's Adam Penna. I'm here today to continue the conversation in 3D printing and additive manufacturing. And I'm very excited today to have Jason Lopes. And Jason is joining us from Carbon 3D in Los Angeles. And he's also the global market development engineer over there. So, Jason, how you doing today? Wonderful to have you.
I'm doing great, Adam. Thank you. I love that we're doing this in October, my favorite month of the year.
Yeah. This episode's gonna air on Halloween week. So with Halloween coming up, I thought it'd be a fun one to do with you, and I really appreciate you talking and reaching out and in preparing this. So this is really fun. I'm glad we're doing this.
Same here.
Good. So I know, man, we've talked a bit, but there's been a lot that's changing. Everybody's kind of getting back to work now inside of the pandemic, but we're all still going through those interesting times and a lot of the unknown still with the upcoming end of the year and everything. But I guess how have things been going for you during the pandemic over there, at Carbon, and how has it been in general for you?
Yeah, well, it's been interesting to
Yeah.
say the least. It's been nice being part of helping. So shifting in my role during the pandemic was a pretty easy shift for me with what I do. I have a lot of printing skill and background as well as development background. So a lot of my accounts, they're located globally, more in the US, but there are some outliers outside of the US. So my normal workflow would be I would work on things and then travel out to clients. Well, obviously the pandemic has changed that. So all of my remote clients, if you will, I've helped them digitally as much as possible. But we actually have a partner in Southern California that's not too far from my house. So I was able to still get a lot of hands-on and development physically at their facility during the pandemic with developing a lot of their PPE items, helping out for bridge production, bridge tooling using additive. So it's been good, but it's led to me having to shift up literally in my home office how I go about my everyday.
Yeah.
I'm constantly monitoring the studio and seeing what printers are available, if I have to get things in there quickly. And then even to the quality aspect of it, not being there and having more of that intimate relationship hands-on, I really had to build alliances with the people that are on site at Carbon and work more hand in hand with them and really develop together this new way of working and how do we get, benchmarks and things like that through in the same timely fashion that we did pre-pandemic.
Right. No, it's
Yeah.
it's a lot going on, and I know that the team collaboration over there is a big part of getting through this right now, and everybody's had to kind of change and adapt to that. I know Carbon's had a lot of great things that they've been doing with the PPE and all the health items, and actually the swabs have been a big story with what's going on. So great to see that reaction from the industry and also from Carbon. But I know there's just the everyday business that we're all taking care of, and so yeah, that everyday workflow, it has to be a challenge, and so you've come up with some interesting ways to handle it, I'm sure.
Yeah, very interesting ways because, not unlike other people that might be watching, I have kids at home as well that are going through their schooling and their virtual as well.
Yeah,
So
my daughter's in the other room right behind this wall here right now, and she's in 6th grade and she's in class right now, virtual school. So there you
yep.
go.
And
Yeah.
that's a challenge as well, because I'm trying to make sure I'm doing all I can to help my kids get through their learning challenges, and even for helping on the teacher's end of things and
Mm-hmm.
sharing bandwidth. And it's just making sure that I don't disrupt in the other room. I'm a very animated person, and most of
Oh,
my day is in meetings. So a
sure.
lot of times I'll get knocks on the wall from my daughter asking me to keep it down. It's kind of funny.
I could relate. Yes.
it's,
Yeah. That's
it's
funny
never the
stuff.
other way
Yeah.
around.
It's like,
Uh,
what? Me keep it down. How did this happen? Yeah.
Yeah, but what's been really great about it, though, in hindsight, is my daughter specifically has been able to see me doing this pivot and
Mm-hmm.
really hearing a lot of these high-level task force committees that I was put on during COVID, just in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And she's really learned a lot about what Dad truly, truly does and how Dad helps people more than just printing. And I
Wonderful.
think that's a big one, right? Like, yes, printing is the physical aspect of what I do. However, there's a lot more that I do that I can never put in words to explain it to my kids. And they got a firsthand look and seeing how I take part in that. And it's really helped them see, oh, this is really neat what Dad's doing. He's doing a lot, developing people, helping people, and more importantly, having fun doing it.
Yeah, that is the important part of it. But yeah, to have your kids see what's going on too in your everyday work life, get a little, hopefully a little more respect than was given prior to that, because
Just a
I'm
little
sure,
bit.
yeah, just a tiny bit. But yeah, no, that's great. What are their ages?
So my son just turned 18, so he's
Yeah.
kind of out of sight, out of mind. My daughter just turned 14,
Okay. Awesome.
going into high school. So it was pretty important for me, for her to see all that was going on. And my approach into the pandemic, outside of my professional work, just helping locally. And what I did was, on top of all of my job requirement, I figured I can help my local community from ground up, and figuring top down will meet us like the bigger companies. So I went to all my local resources that I'm involved with, like my local dentist office, right? Who me and my family go for our teeth cleaning. How can I help there? And sure enough, they needed help. And we were printing mask fitters, doing a lot of different things, helping them source items. And it was really nice to help community come together, local organizations, while the big players were trying to solve it on more of a grand scale.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my approach, going bottom up. And at some point, we're going to meet somewhere in the middle. And I think that's starting to really happen.
Yeah, that's that community side of it is defined right there. I mean, really, when you can get help at that small scale, that's really important, especially during this time. I know a lot of people needed that, so that's
Yes,
awesome. You know, we all need to get involved with our communities, and that's what I've been doing too, to getting involved with the schools and things going around here. So, yeah, I got to stay active and got to kind of change your everyday activities to help each other. You know, I mean, who wants to go at it
exactly.
alone? You know, so that's great. That's good to hear that. And that's happening in Los Angeles. So I know there's been a lot of media there about what's been happening in Los Angeles. How has that affected the work operations, or do you see any of that going on? What is your reality with things happening over there?
So it's been a little bit of a challenge for me. I mean, I've pretty much been landlocked into my home here. So digitally, my throughput is increased.
Mm,
So I'm able to meet the demand of my everyday accounts and clients. But unfortunately, what's been hard for me in this change is, you know, I wake up and I'm into the night. Work hours and social hours have kind of blurred the lines a little bit, and I think that's happened for a lot of people. So really trying to make sure on the mental health side of it that, I do take some time in for me. This way I don't get, just buried in all of the work. It's very easy to keep going. I'm very passionate about
yeah.
work. I'm a type of person that when my plate is filling up, I love that. I want my plate to be full at all times. However, I don't help it at times by constantly keep going. And I think it sets up expectations that can kind of corner you at times. Just makes it a little bit of a challenge. I mean, at some point you do have to put yourself and consider yourself in this crazy workflow and do it. I mean, my job role has changed significantly all through the pandemic, just on helping accounts and customers. Like, I even started sourcing. helping out some of our local accounts when they were going for their PPE initiative, just sourcing things like elastic, right?
Wow.
And how can I help source elastic? Picking up tens of thousands of yards of elastic and filling up my car and going down to local fabric shops that I actually know from my special effects days, and
Nice.
being able to help out, like for instance, Dinsmore down in Orange County in
Sure.
Southern California. They had an amazing PPE effort, and they had a lot of contracts with local hospitals, but sourcing was a big thing. So just helping out on that front, and then seeing the reactions of local business owners when you come in there for picking up 30,000 yards of elastic.
Wow. Yeah.
Having business owners tell you, thank you, your order alone has kept my staff employed for another month and a half at least. Pretty neat.
Yeah, no, that is pretty neat. That's the reality of it. There's a lot of local businesses that need our help, and I make a point of that when the few times I have gone out to eat, it's the local restaurants and not the big ones, because
Exactly.
trying to keep everyone alive that's happening inside of their business, it's a hard struggle right now for a lot of people, that's for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the supply chain side of it is, where 3D printing has kind of, shined. It's been able to supplement a lot of what's happening during this time. But obviously, as things picked up and normal manufacturing has come into play, but you still have those supply chains out there that are looking at 3D printing in a totally different way. So that's good news. Got to look at the positive of things that are happening in our community. But I like what you're talking about, localized help. A lot of people don't really look at that, and they get too tied into what's happening only in their own work situation, only in what they're doing, and it's a big part of it. I think that's a big part of community, is reaching out and helping other people. So
I love that. It's really opened up my eyes, and I think a lot of that interaction with local community and helping is what got me through the early days of COVID. There was this big unknown, things would change in hour by hour, what we were hearing in the media, but really getting together with a lot of this local outreach and helping has been great. Supply chain got disrupted, 3D printing stepped up. I mean, you saw it everywhere. What I really love about our industry is how many makers came out to help and started coming up with solutions on the local level for their communities, which is absolutely great. I know there's a big argument to be had with a lot of these, consumerish type of machines and the materials, etc. However, I saw the positive in it anyway, that it really shows how special this industry is, with people wanting to contribute and help. And my approach has been very much different during it. Yes, 3D printing, additive manufacturing absolutely will help. However, early on, with all that I've learned over the past 3 years, I knew supply chain was going to catch up. So rather than focus on just the shifting everything to additive, how can we also educate the local need to utilize additive as a bridge gap until the supply chain, until the faucets turn back on? And I thought that was a great opportunity to A, help in the time of need, but B, also at the same time, educate a lot of these companies that had this need to how they can really look at additive for the future. And it's really working out a lot.
Yeah, no, that is an awesome point with education. I mean, everything that's been going on, a lot of the common thread of conversation are two things. Even had a poll that was done, and it boiled down to the same two things. Right now, I see security. Everyone wants to feel secure with what's going on, and you can get into the details of, even in 3D printing, sharing files, working with people virtually. There's a lot of security issues going on there, and you just want to feel comfortable with moving forward. But the other side, like you're talking about, is education on all levels, and we're at the tipping point of that. Education is starting to pick up. You're seeing programs inside of big universities happening specifically for additive. So it's a new time. We're starting to see a little of the fruits of those labors. I know there's a few graduates from some of those programs out there, but that's just starting. So the education side on even educating our engineers and our next generation, but also the community out there of understanding what's available, where to look, where resources are. I see all that as stepping up in education too. And it's both, it's kind of a marriage of security and education, people feeling secure because they gain knowledge, kind of a thing,
Yep,
So.
I agree. And in a time of need, let's face it, it's a big investment for a company to shift gears and even put in an educational on how to adopt additive into a facility. That's a resource. That's a big resource for any company to take on. In this time of need, this happened automatically. through all the amazing vendors that were able to bring, this is what we can do for you, this is how we can help. And once you get that starter conversation going and show that value prop and how we can start solving problems, brings more people to the table. And you start advancing very, very quick. And what was, you know, before the pandemic, a big fear / resource for any company to undertake, just automatically started undertaking this during this time. So I can't wait to see and do like a year in review and see, you know, where have we seen things increase just in throughput, more companies leveraging additive? Like, are we going to see some amazing more case studies come out over the next year of new adopters that have adopted because of this time? I'm just looking forward to it.
Yeah, there's a lot that is still remains to be seen. And I feel like we're at that tipping point of, hey, this is going to be the next, you know, big wave of what 3D printing produces, you know, and it's an exciting time for that. But there is a lot of synergies that have to be kind of come together for this to happen. And it's not easy, you know. I think that that education and that security out there, feeling like, okay, we're going forward in the right direction. A lot of companies are looking at risk mitigation, right?
Yep.
And boy, did a lot of things happen with that, those risks, you know, coming to fruition and not being prepared. So what are we going to do for some sort of next type of emergency with supply chains and understanding things? And that whole education kind of, it just flows into what can be done with 3D printing. What can you actually do? I hear a lot of that in the questioning out there. So that's really neat.
Exactly. And I know, you know, our industry, you know, 5-6 years ago came a little bit sensationalized on
Sure.
what the claims of 3D printing were going to do. And I'm glad that, you know, we were kicked back a little bit and having to swallow that pride and really prove unsensationalistically what 3D printing can do and how it can help. And I think we're finally getting there. I think we're going to mature into adoption as an industry even more. I think we're going to have a lot more younger people coming out with an understanding of designing for additive and specific additive processes, which is something that we don't have now, but you're hearing DFAM a lot more these days.
Yes, you are.
A lot more. You know, it's funny, I was just thinking last night when I was going to bed, I remember being back in my special effects days and starting to play with a lot of technologies and understanding in week one, oh my God, we have to adapt to this. And my company really didn't understand. And what do you mean, Jason? And I go, well, we can't just try to put the same designs through this. I mean, theoretically, we can make it happen, but what advantage are we taking with this technology if we're just going to put the same designs that we've designed years ago into this? So in 2008, we were already understanding, no, there's this whole design for additive. And I was calling it to my group back then was, okay, I don't want to overcomplicate it. Let's design to remove the necessity for supports in a 3D print, right?
Okay.
Let's look at
Sure.
it simplistically like this. So I remember we're special effects. So it's a lot differently, even with a lot of my group's industry language back then, and getting them to understand. The minute you say redesign, learning something to design differently, I think a lot of people start pumping the brakes a little bit. Oh, that I got to go back to the drawing board and learn.
Right.
But if you show the benefits of why you want them to attack designing differently, and you call out things where we can get a better performing product, we have, you know, that lead time is now really opened up for us because we're getting a lot more done on day one, week one, and more importantly, economics, right? How can we remove a lot of the manual supporting up front of a design, the physical removal of those supports later, and then the third piece of it is those supports that are removed are now just piling into the economics factor and adding waste to it, unnecessary material just to build this. So I think once you start leveraging that, people start kicking it. Once again, I'll go back to, I use, you know, at Carbon every day, we have to talk about people about modifying files for the best result. And I learned early on, the minute you use the word redesign, people's eyes open, that file's locked. I attack it by a modification for printability. And then it seems to go into a discussion a little bit more because now I can start tying it to the number one thing, cost factor, economics.
Yes.
And the minute I say how a modification can influence and drop down the economics, We're never going to match injection molding. Not today, not tomorrow, not 10 years from now. What's the value prop to use this outside of impossible geometries, things like that, short programs that really don't have the budget for a tool to be cut, etc. If you can start influencing on design modification for economics, that's a big win, and that's what people want to hear.
No, that's wow, that's a great point, and it's a huge insight into the reality of the situation, you know, because it's a roadblock. There's all the design processes in there. Nobody wants to hear that we have to redesign a part. It kind of puts up all the barriers of, whoa, we've already went through this, you know.
Exactly.
But you know, when you're looking at getting the better economics of what's going to happen once it prints, then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, that's a cost saving procedure we're going through here, you know.
Yeah,
yeah,
everyone loves saving money.
That's right. No, but I mean, it's not smoke and mirrors. It's the reality of it. It's the benefit. It's that value add that you get with going through the process of building layer by layer and understanding how that design is a bit different from what you might be doing in another process. So
exactly.
Yeah, that's great stuff. So you brought up a lot that we were talking about too with the materials, and I know that even with the technology itself, I know it's digital light synthesis that Carbon use.
Yes.
I just wanted to pull back because I remember ears and marketing from a while back. What happened to Clip? Is there still Clip? Or is that just morphed into D.L.S? Is it the same thing or?
So Clip is still a definition of like how our process works.
Yeah.
I use it. When everyone asks, well, why did Carbon just go with D.L.S? We wanted, D.L.S is the process, okay, digital light synthesis. And I also inject some humor in there. If anyone knows animation, if you look at Simpsons and stuff, you wonder why they only have 3 fingers. It's because you save money. So we're getting rid of a letter there.
Hey!
No, that's just a joke.
That's good though.
It's just to dial into our process of digital light synthesis, D.L.S, and you can still hear it interchanged, but if you look in any of the Carbon literature on the website, it's always referred to now as the process of D.L.S.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure I didn't think there was anything that changed so much in the technology other than the name, right? Is it?
Correct. That's
okay.
All. They just came up with the new acronym.
Yeah, well, good. Yeah, I was talking, of course, before about what had happened in the past when I first saw Carbon being, coming into the trade shows, and of course that's where I started to hear that reference there of the Clip technology, and then of course now I've been seeing D.L.S, and I was like, did they have something change? It's the same thing. No, that's the bottom line.
Same thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now I know a big benefit of that technology is the materials, and there's a way that you can get isotropic properties, which is the way all the fibers line up, and mostly inside of protecting that Z direction, which is always kind of laid flat in some of the other technologies. So I mean, I've heard a lot of understanding the material that goes into what happens in the process. So where is that benefiting the customer?
So to back up just a little bit, so we use dual cure materials on our engineering grade resins. They're 2-part urethanes that get dispensed together through a dispensing gun with a mixing tip. And then we have a pot life to build in. So this is where the Carbon material scientists can really develop some fascinating materials that have never been out there before. To answer your question specifically, this is the first time ever in an industry, I think, where you can start with a concept, begin prototyping, validate that, and go out to quantity production, serial production in some cases, all from day one in the same working material. So even in a bridge gap, if you use 3D printing, if you use Carbon D.L.S in a bridge gap, we're solving that need for the bridge gap for the moment of need. However, for an engineer or for a designer, that bridge gap is a different material. We're going to prove out an even functional prototype. We're going to prove out. And then when we get to that tool, we're in a different material at the end of the day. The process is nice, being able to have additive be a player there. But at the end of the day, for a designer engineer, they want to see their design in that chosen material from start to finish, all the way to high volume output. So we really enable, you can do all of your testing, understanding your designs. How can you influence your designs even better by working in that same material from day one? And that's kind of leads into like every day when I talk to a lot of people and train people, I don't speak to the technology out the gate because I'm looking at the application, the program's needs. I look at it from a material perspective. If I have in Carbon's library, if I have a material that's going to match the requirements of that program or that application, then I'll speak to the technology. Because if I can't match it in material, the technology's moot, in my point.
Sure.
We'll find the material first, that leads to the vehicle, which is your technology. So I think people overthink it a lot. They want to go right to a technology and then hope they can deep dive and find a material. I don't agree with that approach at all. So if you understand it from the application's need of a material, that opens you up to really learning about the technology in the best possible way. And you'll be able to influence your designs and engineering and take advantage of why you chose that material and get the guidelines for that material and really push the limits for a better performing product. So many people just try to bucket it in. Well, if I get this technology or I just want it printed in this technology, why? What's the need for the technology? You have a need for material, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that again addresses the economics, like you were saying. If ahead of time they have the material that fits the application, everything else can fall in around that. So
everything can fall in around it. That's the nice thing about this workflow. You can be the engineer, designer. I can be the bean counter. We can, from minute one, even though your design's not finished, we can start gauging economics. We can start bringing up problems with the economics. We can then interact and say, how can you start changing some of these designs to give me a drop down in the cost? Is it less material usage? We're going to weigh material usage. We're going to weigh design to a better performing part. So you have this synergy that can really work together to help drop it down at the end of the day.
yeah, no, that makes sense. Now, when you're talking about in general, you know, we're going into a production mode here with where printing's going, and that is the additive manufacturing side of it. But the reality is a lot of what's going on in the industry, there's still all the prototyping world, you know, it's a large part of it. So, I mean, what's your definition of going from prototype to production?
So prototyping is my world. I come from a heavy prototype world because prototype, I think, is an open-ended word.
Sure.
Many people use prototypes in different manners. So my definition is, you know, I'm constantly working in a prototype world. However, at the end of the day, if I'm working in Carbon D.L.S. and a chosen engineering material, there's a good argument is this actually a prototype anymore? Could be a functioning earlier version rev of a final product. And so there's a good argument about prototyping, I think, once we have more materials coming to market all around on how that word's going to evolve a little bit. But for me, a prototype world this is my first run, my first look at a concept. I can start gauging performance. I can start gauging application specific needs, the harsh environment it may be in, ways to address it, and mature that prototype into a functional prototype, which once again, that's a blurred line too, prototype to functional prototype. Pretty much I'm working in functional prototypes from day one today because of these materials. But this whole prototyping stage, quote unquote, really is getting close to a direct end use revision, in my opinion. And we can do so many dynamical things within that space before calling it a lock. And I don't even think we call it a lock anymore, excuse me.
Sorry.
Meaning that we can take this prototype into a functional prototyping world of testing and then go into production. We're in production with this design. Well, you call me and say, you know what, this product that we have, we want to start, you know, taking it to a customized level now. We have a new buyer that's coming in that wants to start putting branding on it. Well, think about what you'd have to do traditionally for that. You'd have to plan all of that up front before your tools, etc. Now, it doesn't matter. We can run a parallel lane, bring in new designs, new customization, add some bespoke to it, prove it out through an iteration or two, and then just switch the lane in production. So production, you know, it's like, I look at production now with customization and other performance enhancing things going on, kind of like that overview of the old, you know, switching station at the train tracks, right? You see how, you know, everything's constantly switching, but it all leads to the same course, to the same end. So we can dynamically do things without halting production and bring in new concepts, ideas, new better performance enhancements, all without missing a beat.
Yeah. And I think that also speaks to what you were talking about with the strengths of the materials themselves, because if you're looking at the material that is going to be your end use material, you're already working towards production, right in that sense. So that's
It's
awesome.
huge. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
if we have that right application or that right part that gets printed and validated out, and even if we're not talking production today, a month from now we get the call that that product needs to go into production, it's very easy to put into production. The
yeah.
work's been done, it's validated, we can distribute it to a global network, or we can stay to our own local network. Really, digital manufacturing is pretty powerful.
Yeah, it is. It is. So that's all great stuff. I just, I know that your past prior, like you were saying, to even being there at Carbon, and you were talking about, is it Legacy Effects is the company prior to this? Is it you
Yep.
still with Legacy Effects, or is that something?
Nope, I'm 100% at Carbon.
Carbon. Yeah.
Yep, I'm standing back watching Legacy Effects' success. They're a very talented group of people.
Yeah.
Legacy Effects was started out of the original Stan Winston studio, who
Wow.
brought some of the biggest movies to life, like Aliens, Jurassic Park, Terminator. And working for Stan was pretty amazing. I only worked a sliver of my time with him,
Yeah.
but he enabled us when, after he passed away in 2008, it was 2008, so many years have passed now, that we started Legacy in his honor and brought
Beautiful.
that true artisanship in that was already defined, and then brought in much more technology. How can we bridge that gap from artistry into technology selfishly for our timelines, right? Because
Yes. Okay.
we saw the benefit, what the studios were asking of us just in design world. There was a lot more, we started physically sculpting way back in the years, and then we went into digital sculpting. And well, if you look at it in just a suit design, a robot, a lot of that stuff is mirrored, where left side is the same as the right side. In a physical sculpting world, just to mirror something is a lot of time. And if there's changes, a lot more time. So now we can be precise, we can be highly accurate, and we can deliver it a lot faster and efficient. And that's what we did.
Yeah, that whole side of it, that creative side of it, I think is obviously the out of the box, when you get into the engineering side of what's going on, a lot of people are in that box and they don't quite have the creative tools to get other things to happen. So I see that as a really huge part of your background to bring to
Yes.
this whole world. It's just endless, amazing possibilities of creation, and then bringing that mindset into a production work frame is
It's
it's
amazing.
yeah, it's got to be
That's
exciting.
that's the biggest thing that I've taken away from my time in entertainment. And I think about this a lot, Adam, a lot.
Mhm.
I work with some very, very, very smart people just in general every day. And a lot of people that hold some big degrees out of some big schools, big engineering schools. And they've textbook learned, which is phenomenal. It's great. However, you don't have that real world dynamic to understand how to pivot and shift multiple times throughout a day because of client decisions that are out of your control, budgetary decisions that are out of your control. I see a lot of stalling and deer in headlights.
Sure.
Whereas I can tell you, I think you had Dana McCallum on here
Yep.
a little bit
Yep.
ago.
Not too long ago. Yeah.
She'll back this up.
Yeah.
You can throw any obstacle at me throughout my day with 50 million things on my plate. I'll meet everything you need by 5 o'clock or whatever that deadline may be, because I know how to creatively get to a dynamically shifting deadline.
Right.
And that's what you don't learn in a lot of these programs. And it's that real world experience. I wish it's not too popular today. I mean, I came out of college, I was an apprentice. That's how I learned most of what I use today, by someone bullying me around, telling me what it's going to take for me to get my first true position outside of
Yeah.
pushing a mop, helping. That
That's
apprenticeship
huge.
program, trades are great. This is how you deal with the unexpected in an already crazy deadline. And that's something that I think we as a country could use a lot more of.
No, I think you're absolutely right. You're talking about, I guess that was your time coming out of the Art Institute. Is that correct? When you're
Yeah,
taking
so
that journey in life, how was that back then?
that was cool. That was back in the day where I thought that I wanted to follow my friends that were all becoming, pro skaters, and followed them around my
Awesome.
video camera and make
Yeah.
movies. I went to school for film and video. I didn't go to school for anything, anything
Wow.
engineering
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I have a true film and video background, and
Awesome.
yeah, and just being able to, I get it. Not everyone's an artist, not everyone's a creative thinker. However, there's a lot of skill sets that artistic people have that they can do. There's a lot of skill sets that artistic people do not have. Like I just had this conversation with Dana a couple days ago.
Mhm.
I don't even know where to start how to balance a checkbook.
Yeah.
However, if you need me to creatively get something done for you, I
Yeah.
will figure it out. I'm great at doing the impossible for the first time ever. And that's what I bring to the table. And we can do some really cool things. And I love showing that to people too. Like you said it earlier, I latched onto something.
Mhm.
You know, people are stuck within this only way of doing things, and it's very binary and very linear. And got to explode and get through that, because once you figure that out, and everyone's different, that gives you more time back. That puts you more in control in the driver's seat, because what might be a crazy issue for your company is going to be no problem for you supporting that and getting it through. And your company will see value in you doing that.
No, yeah, that's a big part of it. And I think obviously working with people that have those different attributes makes a team, right? You know,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So you need all sides of it. If you're better at one side of it, find the other side that you're not so better with. Yeah.
Exactly. I always use this one funny example back at my Legacy Effects days. At Legacy Effects, they were responsible for the Affleck duck. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Everyone knows that duck.
Affleck. Yeah, yeah.
So to do the Affleck duck, you obviously need to have like a feather expert that you work with, because if you're going to ship the Affleck duck to another country, certain feathers, animals are not allowed to cross certain lines unless you pay a
That's
lot of
true.
money. So we
Yeah.
have all different types of people. So anyway, we were working on a project that was heavy robot type project, mechanical engineering. And we were all sitting at one of these large shop desks one day, and we were stumped, completely stumped. We were pulling our hair out. We were on a problem for like 3 days, couldn't figure it out. And our feather expert happened to be walking by us and just like looked over at the table and just goes, "Have you ever tried blah, 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 blah?" And just kept walking. And we all just looked at each other and we were just like,
Oh
nailed it. And that was our
boy.
solution. Our
Yeah.
solution didn't even come from one of us, one of our team members that was a specialist in that field. It came from someone that's just a different way of looking at something. And
Mhm.
we were so granularly in our world, our box, if you will, that it took someone that had nothing about what we do to open our eyes and solve it.
Yeah, that is the true teamwork right there. And you never know where
Yep.
it comes from sometimes, so it's important to have those players on the team. That is really cool. Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, wow, it's been awesome having you here today. I know that Carbon has a lot of things going on. Is there anything coming up that we should know about?
So we're starting to move towards the commercialization of our general L1 big printer,
Mm-hmm.
which is very exciting. We actually have some out in the field right now and getting some really, really nice benchmarking results off of that.
Oh, cool.
So we have like an early access program going on for that right now, which is very exciting for me because, it's nice. Once again, I'm going to compare this to the story I just told. Carbon's up there developing a new technology, a new machine. It's nice to get it out into the wild and put it into other people's hands to help solve some of these problems that we may be challenged with at times. So that's very exciting for me. Bigger parts or more smaller parts hitting economics a lot better. Materials, we have some new materials coming out, and we'll be announcing a partnership with Henkel,
Okay.
and the first single part curing material coming out of the gate will be Henkel Clear. So we'll
Awesome.
finally have a proper clear material for
Wow,
carbon
really cool.
space,
Yeah.
which is really, really nice. And then one of our roadmap items, and I've dabbled in printing with it a little bit so far, is a new flavor to our epoxy family. It'll be called EPX 86FR. So it's our first step into a V0 material.
Nice, nice. Oh,
So,
awesome. Yeah.
and lots of software updates, as you can imagine, on the latticing end of things. Texturing is a big one for us as well. Coming up with this digital ecosystem of a solution that keeps people out of CAD as much as possible is pretty exciting for me.
Oh boy, you opened up another one there with out of CAD, huh? Yeah, there's a lot of that going on, and the softwares are developing at a fast pace, right? I think software is big, the next evolution of the 3D printing side. I think there's so much to do in software right now. It's awesome.
Huge
Yeah,
to do in software. You're seeing a lot more players come to the table,
yeah,
a lot more unique solutions, a whole new designing language, right? Generative latticing. There's going to be a lot of focus on that, which
right.
is huge. But I also think that, our old school .stl file, I think, is going to start
Yeah.
coming into play a little bit more, and we're going to start needing new supporting formats for how this world works in data and downstream processes. So I know that's a whole nother topic, but
It is. And it just one quick thing on that always, and no, it's there, right? Because you have all the vectors and everything going on in the CAD data. You have the way any kind of, well, it's all the different, what it is it's all the different technologies. It's all coming at it in a different way. So there's endless ways to control the vector information coming in and everything else that's going on with surfaces. It's interesting, but it's getting there. I see a lot of those bridges happening right now with different file formats and
oh, exactly. And then you look at just process control and what kind of metadata are people looking for. The way we advance today, just in general, as a country, as a world, is pretty phenomenal.
it is.
I had Carbon being up in Silicon Valley. It was my first time really getting in Silicon Valley, if you will, and the data centric stuff that's just up there, and I'm learning things every day, and I think it's going to be a big need for where we evolve into in the supporting file type formats and that necessary embedded data that needs to come along with it that we just can't do in this current format. I mean, just in file weight alone with latticing, I won't even go there, but
Yeah, I know. With 3D scanning, surface scanning, I remember seeing the color mapping happening. And at first there was nothing there. Now, my gosh, it's close to the heart to tell what's happening now with the color mapping going on with this surfacing. So,
oh yeah,
yeah, it's an evolution it's happening right now. So I'm sure we just keep riding the wave and we'll get there.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, Jason, hey, it's awesome having you here. Thanks again. And I'll go ahead and put a link to carbon3d.com so people can check that out too. And thank you again for your time. And we'll look forward to seeing you around.
Absolutely, Adam. Thank you very much. If anyone wants to connect, I love having discussions with people, and awesome, man. Let's just keep moving it forward.
Definitely. Thanks again. And we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Okay, take care.
Gonna be